All right, so this is your Quiz 12 study guide. And problem number 1 asks you which pair of triangles is congruent by ASA? And that's angle, side, angle. Angle, side, and an angle. The S, the side, needs to be between the two congruent angles, okay? So problem number 1, we've got an angle, side, angle. But then in this second triangle, the side is not between the congruent angles. So it can't be A. In C right here, we've got side, angle, side, side, angle, side. That's not angle, side, angle either. In answer choice B, we've got an angle, a side, and an angle, congruent to an angle, a side, and an angle. So there you go, two angles, and the congruent side is between the two angles, so answer choice B. Problem number 2, can you use side, angle, side, the angle, angle, side theorem, or both to prove the triangle is congruent? You have to add some information to this diagram. These two angles in the middle of the shape, those are vertical angles. So this angle on the left is congruent to this angle on the right. So look what we've got. We don't have two sides congruent, okay? So we can't use side, angle, side. But we've got an angle, angle, and a non-included side congruent to an angle, angle, non-included side. So we can't use SAS, but we can use angle, angle, side. So answer choice C. Make a note to put in those two arc marks when you see this bow tie problem on your quiz. Problem number 3, based on the given information, what can you conclude and why? Angle H is congruent to angle L. So this angle is congruent to this angle. HJ is congruent to JL. So H to J is this little side here, and it's congruent to J to L. Now I know this is small and it's hard to see, but again, we've got this little bow tie situation right in here, all right? If I pull this kind of over here, you've got this intersecting with this, and this is J, right? So this angle is congruent to this angle, right in here. So we've got angle, side, angle, congruent to angle, side, angle. So angle, side, angle, it's either going to be answer choice A or answer choice C. We just need to find out which congruent statement they wrote correctly. So in answer choice A, they started with HIJ. So they went H, I, J. So if they started with the H, they have to start the next congruent statement with an L. All right. If they went H to I, they got to go L to K, and they did. So by process of elimination, it's answer choice A. All right, that's the correct congruence statement. Name the theorem. Problem number 4. Name the theorem or postulate that lets you immediately conclude that ABD is congruent to CBD. All right, we've talked about this a lot this year. If we've got a 90-degree angle at the intersection of these two segments, then the angle on the other side is also 90 degrees. Both triangles share side BD. So we've got an angle, and a side, congruent to an angle, and a side. So angle, side. And problem number 5. Which triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle? Again, with the S in the middle, the congruent side needs to be between the two congruent angles. So in this first triangle, we've got angle, side, angle. But in the second triangle, we don't have two congruent angles. We don't have two angles in this triangle that are congruent to the first triangle. So we're not going to use that one. In this third triangle, we have an angle, 2 tick marks, and an angle. All right? So it's going to be the first triangle and the third triangle. So which triangles are congruent? I'm going to start the congruent statement at angle U. So we got triangle U. I'm going to go from 1 arc mark to 2 arc marks. So UTV is congruent to triangle. If I started at 1 arc mark, I need to start at 1 arc mark on this third triangle. So that is angle C. And then I went to 2 arc marks, which is B, and then A. All right, so triangle UTV is congruent to triangle CBA. Problem number 6. Which two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle? AF bisects EC. If AF bisects E to C, then this piece is congruent to this piece, and AD is congruent to DF. Angle AED, this angle right here, is congruent to angle FCD. FCD is right here. Now, again, in the middle of this diagram, you've got this bow tie going on. The left side of this bow tie is congruent to the right side of the bow tie. So we've got an angle, a side, and an angle congruent to an angle, a side, and an angle. So again, I'm going to start my description with 1 arc mark, angle E. So triangle EDA is congruent to triangle. If I started with the E, I got to start with the C. And then I went to D, I got to go to D again. And that's CDF. All right, so those two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. All right, problem number 7. Find the value of x. In this triangle, you're given this left side is 21, the right side is 21. That means they're congruent to each other. That means this is an isosceles triangle. And if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So this angle down here is x degrees. So we've got x plus 38, or 2x plus 38, that's equal to 180. So subtract 38 from each side. Two x is equal to 142. And divide both sides by 2. And we get an x equal to 71. Problem number 8, what is the value of x? Again, you have two sides of a triangle that are congruent to each other. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So if one of these angles is 56, the other one's 56. So we've got an x plus 2 times 56 equals 180. So x plus 112 equals 180. Subtract 112 from each side. We get an x that's equal to 68. And there you go. Your value of x is 68. Same concept in problem number 9. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So angle E up here is equal to x. So we got a 2x plus 93.5, that's equal to 180. Subtract 93.5 from each side. Our 2x is equal to 86.5. And then divide both sides by 2. 43.25. Problem number 10, another isosceles triangle. We're going to draw this one though. The legs of an isosceles triangle, remember the legs are the congruent sides. Are 2x plus 4 and x plus 8. The base has a length of 5x minus 2. What is the length of the base? So what we have to do here is solve for x and then substitute it into the expression for the base. So our 2x plus 4 is equal to, what's the 2x plus 4 equal to? Good. The 2x plus 4 is equal to the x plus 8. So subtract x from each side. You get an x plus 4 equal to 8. Subtract 4. And x equals 4. If x equals 4 and we need the base, 5 times 4 minus 2 is going to be the base. And 5 times 4 is 20. Minus 2 is 18. So the base of that isosceles triangle is 18 units long. All right, problem number 11, find the value of x. The diagram is not to scale. Again, an isosceles triangle. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So this angle in here, this angle STR, is equal to 3x minus 50. The angle next to it, the 7x, those two make a linear pair. So they sum 180. So now we can solve for x. So our 3x plus our 7x is 10x minus 50 is equal to 180. Add 50 to each side. So our 10x equals 230. Divide by 10. And our x equals 23. All right, problem number 12. Again, find the value of x. The diagram is not to scale. RS is congruent to ST. The measure of angle RST is this vertex angle, is 7x minus 54. The measure of angle STU equals 8x. So STU is 8x. We need to find the value of x. So this angle R down here and angle STR are congruent to each other. But we can't use the letter X to identify them. So we're going to use the letter Y. Now this is called a system of equations problem. We need the three angles inside the triangle to add up to 180. And we need this linear pair down here to sum 180. So we've got to write two equations. The first equation that we're going to write is the y plus y, which is 2y, plus 7x minus 54. That's equal to 180. The other equation we're going to write is y plus 8x. Is equal to 180. So we're going to take this equation on the left and clean it up. We're going to add 54 to each side. So we get 2y plus 7x is equal to 234. Then we're going to leave it alone. Just leave it alone right there. Now, we're going to take this equation on the right, and since it already has a y by itself, we're going to solve for that y. And we're going to do that by subtracting 8x from each side. So we get a y that's equal to 180 minus 8x. Now we're going to take what y is equal to. We're going to substitute it into the first equation where the y is, and we're going to solve for x. So we've got 2 times 180 minus 8x plus 7x, that's equal to 234. We're going to do the distributive property. So 360 minus 16x plus 7x equals 234. We're going to subtract 360 and combine like terms in one step. So minus 360 minus 360. Negative 16x plus 7x is negative 9x is equal to 234 minus 360. Negative 126. And then we got to divide both sides by negative 9. And our x is equal to 14. And finally, problem number 13. Find the values of x and y. Again, we've got two sides of a triangle that are congruent. I'm looking at this big triangle around the outside. If those two sides are congruent, then this angle is congruent to this angle. So that makes angle B here 47. So angle Y is the same in both of these small triangles. So if we find this angle measure, this big angle measure up here, and we divide it by 2, it'll give us Y. So I'm going to call that angle A for right now, the big angle up top of the big outside triangle. So we got 2 times 47 plus angle A, it's got a sum 180. So 47 times 2, 94 plus angle A is equal to 180. Subtract 94 from each side. And big angle A is equal to 86 degrees. And again, if this big angle A is 86 degrees, and the two angles that make it or form it are congruent to each other, then Y is equal to 86 divided by 2, which is 43. So now we've got this triangle over here on the left. And we know 2 of the angles in it. Okay? We know that angle Y up here is 47. Or I'm sorry, 43. We know that this angle B is 47, so 43 plus 47 plus x is equal to 180. So 43 plus 47, 90 plus x is equal to 180. And we can subtract 90 from each side. So our x is equal to 90. So here's our y, and here's our x. All right, that completes your study guide for quiz 12.